This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Fujitsu Stylistic Q550 10.1-inch Windows 7 tablet. Now, this is really not geared towards consumers. Fujitsu is making this more for vertical markets and business users, so it's going to lack some of the sex appeal that you'd see in a consumer product. But that said, it is sold in stores like Fry's, and you're probably going to run into it perhaps when you're wandering around looking for cool new tablets. This is a 10.1-inch tablet with a IPS display. It's 400 nits brightness. It doesn't look real beautiful though because it has a durability coating. Again, remember this is for field work, and durability is an important kind of thing. And it's also an anti-glare coating, which can be wonderful when you're outdoors, but inside it looks a little bit bland and grainy. That said, it fights ambient light very well, and this does work nicely outdoors. This is a dual digitizer. It uses N-Trig DuoSense technology, which means you can use your finger. And you can see touch response requires a firmer touch than we're used to with most tablets, and you can use the active digitizer stylus, not a capacitive stylus. This is an active digitizer pen. It takes one quadruple A battery that screws into the end cap here. It has a single button on it, and this is much more accurate than a capacitive stylus would be. And you can see you can use it to navigate around. Do stuff. Obviously use it for OneNote, for signature capture, diagramming, things like that. Let's take a look around the tablet. Some of the things that make this more of a business or vertical use tablet are things like the user replaceable battery on the back. This big plate is the battery. You can get either a 2-cell battery, which Fujitsu says is good for around 4 hours, or the 4-cell battery that we have in here, that's 38 watt per hour, they say is good for up to 8 hours, which is probably optimistic. Depends on your brightness settings and your wireless use. Here we have the wireless on-off switch for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. This says Wi-Fi 802.11bgn. And we've got some quick launch buttons, including one that does the Control-Alt-Delete function, since there's no hardware keyboard to do that, and one that brings up the on-screen keyboard. This is your power button right here with LED indicator. Charging jack is right here. Here's your single speaker. A charger is quite compact, by the way, with a nice long cord. Dock connector for dock accessories. Side here we have full-size HDMI port as your little microphone, 3.5mm stereo headphone jack, and the single USB port. Another microphone over here. Full-size SD card slot here, and it says a smart card reader as well, and a fingerprint scanner. So these are a lot of features that are obviously important to vertical use and business use again. There is no Ethernet port on this, so you're going to be using wireless or looking for a USB to Ethernet adapter with this device. Windows tablets tend to be heavy. Two problems with them are, besides the fact that the operating system is not really optimized for touch use, which is not as important if you're going to be using this for vertical use or with the stylus particularly, but the other thing is they tend to have short battery life, and this has decent battery life, and you can swap new batteries in, and there's even a utility right here on the desktop you can see. To swap a second battery, it automatically goes into hibernate mode when you run that, and you can swap a battery in without shutting down. The other complaint is weight. So by Windows tablet standards, this guy is incredibly light at 1.9 pounds, which is lighter than the Asus eSlate EP121 that we reviewed. That is a 12.1 inch, it's bigger, but it weighs 2.5 pounds, a bit more. So if you have to carry something around all day for work, this guy isn't so bad. And it's not much bigger than something like the HP TouchPad 10.1 inch tablet here, and HP TouchPad weighs 1.65 pounds versus 1.9, so you're not really suffering that much. Now we'll compare it to the Asus eSlate, which is a 12.1 inch Windows slate, also has an IPS display but is glossy. And you can see clearly it's significantly longer and a bit less portable. Now the most direct competitors really, although they may have somewhat more of a consumer bent, are the HP Slate and the Acer Iconia Tab W500. Not the A500 Android tablet, but there's a W500, which is a 10.1 inch Windows 7 tablet as well. That's running an AMD Fusion CPU, which is actually faster, but it lacks several of the enterprise features here, including things like the easy swappable battery and the fingerprint reader. And it has a gloss display that's not as bright and not as easy to see outdoors. It does, however, come with a detachable keyboard. This does not come with any keyboard. You're going to have to supply your own Bluetooth or USB keyboard. The Fujitsu sells for $729 with a 30 gig SSD drive, an $849 with a 62 gig SSD drive. Regardless of which configuration you get, everything else stays the same, and that means an Intel Atom Z670 CPU running at 1.5 gigahertz. That's a single-core Atom Oak Trail processor that runs 2 threads, and it was really designed by Intel more for mid kind of applications. It's runs slower than the average current netbook, let's say, because it's not the fastest CPU on the block. It does offer a lot of low power for a long battery life, but as you'll see, this is not a very fast tablet. It has 2 gigs of DDR2 RAM, Intel GMA 600 graphics, which is the companion chip to the Intel Oak Trail CPU, Bluetooth 3.0. Now let's take a look at how this runs things. Fujitsu includes a couple of custom utilities, including this little quick launcher over here to make it a little bit more finger-friendly. Right now it's in internet mode, which is a little funny because we don't have the web browser running, but you can see there are shortcuts to add things to favorites, print, close, zoom in, and launch the software keyboard. There's 2 keyboards. There's a standard Windows on-screen keyboard here, and then we have Fujitsu's own. We'll take a look at that. There's Fujitsu's, which is pretty teeny. And here's the standard Windows keyboard, which is resizable, which is nice. You can actually grab and hold it. Touchscreen, again, on this is just not that responsive, unfortunately. It's not like the eSlate, which is almost as good as a mobile OS tablet in terms of response. But you can make this as big as you need for typing, which is very handy. And of course you have pen input for handwriting recognition using this pen here. And handwriting recognition runs pretty well on many low-powered tablets, but on this it really does lag and makes some more mistakes than you'd expect because of the slow CPU. In terms of MS Office performance, again, we noticed some lag. And we've just got the starter edition of Office 2010 here. We'll launch Word 2010. You can, of course, put OneNote on this. The challenge is that Windows Tablet Edition was really designed for the 12.1-inch display and up, 12.1-inch being the traditional sweet spot for tablets. So you just don't get as much working area here from taking handwritten notes, and touch targets are a bit small. You can see that launched just fine, and you can switch to Ink Tools immediately just by putting the cursor close. And you can use the on-screen keyboard as well to enter stuff too, obviously. Keyboard lags a little bit sometimes, but not too bad. Now if we take a look at Windows Journal now, and low right, and see how this handles vectoring. And it's doing a fine job of ignoring my palm on the screen here. And we'll try recognizing. And we'll try turning that into text. And it thinks about it for a little bit. And it did a good job. So there you have it. So it's usable in terms of speed. How about web browsing? We'll go to our own site. Browsing speeds are fine. Scrolling speed's reasonable. This is IE8 we're running. This has pinch zoom support. Pinch zooming is a little jerky though, as you can see. And let's see how it does with Adobe Flash. We're going to go to YouTube now. And we'll try the in-time HD trailer. And we have the latest version of Adobe Flash installed for the browser. And now we're doing this in 360p in the window.
Allow me to introduce my mother-in-law, Clara, my wife, Michelle, and my daughter, Sylvia. Whoa, where's the rest?
Well, that's good. How about if we bring it out to full screen and raise the resolution up?
Just want something to make it with more time on my hand than hours in the day.
And it starts dropping frames.
28, 105. But the day comes when you've had enough.
So actually not as good as some mobile OS tablets like the HP Touchpad, the BlackBerry Playbook, and even some Android tablets. Interesting thought there. So Adobe Flash playback performance, not so good. Again, this is more of a business-oriented tablet, but then again, it's also very hard to avoid Flash. So, not the best choice for that. And obviously for any Flash-based service like Hulu or Hulu Plus, you're going to run into some performance issues with this. In terms of graphics arts professionals, this really wouldn't be the tablet for you either, probably because at 10.1 inches, it doesn't give you much of a drawing area to work with. And it's really not fast enough to run the latest version of Photoshop well. Even Painter 11 would be a bit slow, and you'd notice some lag when you're drawing, which isn't conducive to doing quality artwork. For business use, for accessing databases and online databases, it's acceptable, but it is on the slow side, which is unfortunate. The Fujitsu Stylistic Q550 has two cameras. It has a VGA webcam facing front here, not terribly high resolution, but it's not too bad. Obviously, you're going to want to use this in portrait orientation, which is a little bit weird maybe for video chat applications, or otherwise have people really get a good view of your left ear. And on the back we have a 1.3 megapixel camera, probably good for vertical use, say insurance adjusters who need to snap photos of car damage, things like that. If you're using this for home remodeling, if you're walking around and you want to take pictures of a before and after of a house, anything like that could be useful. To add an element of touch and user-friendliness, Fujitsu does include their home launcher utility, and that's what this looks like right here. Now this is shortcuts to your Outlook, email, calendar, notes. If you have Outlook installed, it will launch those. If you don't, then you'll see a slightly bizarre error message. Cannot find Outlook or your account setting of Outlook, because we have not configured Outlook. You get a world clock over here, and you've got quick access to your brightness, wireless, sound settings, battery status, which is handy. And you can use the grab handle to switch over here to a quick launcher, and you can add whatever applications you want here. So this is pretty touch friendly to launch your applications. And then you've got a shortcut to your Photos folder and to your Documents folder, and also to launching the camera. And you can switch between, right now we're looking at the rear camera, you can switch between the front and the back cameras using this, and you can snap a shot right here. Of course, you can install video conferencing apps like Skype on here, but given the CPU performance, video conferencing is a bit of a challenge for this device. Most conventional benchmarks don't run very well on this, if at all, but we have the Windows Experience here index to take a look at, and you can see that the slowest result is actually the CPU, which isn't often the case with notebooks these days or tablets, but processor gets 2.1, memory gets a 4.1, graphics for Aero gets a 2.9, gaming graphics is 3, and the SSD drive gets a 5.9, and again is a score scale of 1.0 to 7.9. So if you're running highly optimized business applications, be they web-based or locally stored, then this should do the trick. And it is solidly built. It has very nice light feel to it. You have the replaceable battery. You have the fingerprint scanner for security, smart card slot. It has a lot of the qualities that enterprise users are looking for. But again, even so, the performance, I think, lags a bit behind where we'd like to see it for enterprise use too. The tablet runs reasonably cool. The back side here, not where the battery is, but this area here will get pretty warm to the touch if it's working hard, say if it's been playing Adobe Flash or installing Windows updates. Not boiling and uncomfortable to hold, but you definitely will notice the warmth right here under the Fujitsu logo. And battery life, again, with the 4-cell battery, Fujitsu claims about 8 hours. I'd say real world more like 6 on average is what you'll see. Again, that does depend on where you're setting the brightness, if you're using wireless, and how intensive the applications are that you're running on the tablet. This comes with Windows 7 Professional 32-bit. It's a 32-bit CPU. Comes with Office 2010. That's the kind where you enter your product key to turn into a full version, otherwise you can use it as Starter Edition. And otherwise it's fairly pleasingly lacking in bloatware. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Fujitsu Stylistic Q550 10-inch Windows 7 Slate tablet.